uh, he asked me, and even in the interviews they're asking this question. See, when you're loading in BW, you can load with 3.x flow and 7 flow, right? So they are asking just to reconfirm whether you really done this in the real time or not. They're asking this. Let's say you generate your data source, you replicate it to BW, and then you connect that to the queue, because if it is 7 flow, you don't need info source. Yes or no? And then based on this fields, you create info objects, and then I had a cube already, right? But actually what happens is, see, when you go to BW, very important question. When you go to BW, okay, see, SAP BW and ECC both are from same company, right? So they have got very tight integration. When I say tight integration, for every data source in ECC, you'll have a ready-made info source in BW. Say for example, if you go to BI content, so ready-made info source means what? Business content. If you go to BI content, when you go to info sources, see, I was using this data source actually. 2LI is what? What is? 11 VHD. And if you double click with the same data source, if you go with see, do we see these names? 2LIS, 11. Do you see this with same info source with the same name? Date, what are the name we have it for data source, with the same name we have it for info source. See, what they've done is they've created some data source with some 10 fields. For the same 10 fields, they would have manipulated info source with 10 info objects readily available. If you manipulate your data source with some extra fields, for them you'll have to go with some new info objects into it. You have to customize it. Got this point? So to easily identify for which field, which info object we have, what if I don't use this ready-made one, I need to sit down and then start identifying info object for each field one by one. So say for example, what I do is I go to R3. So let's say I'm using some purchasing data sources. Okay. If you see, then it will be what? MM, where is MM? MM 2LI is, let's say I want to go with purchasing item level data source. Select this data source, export I fields, okay, item, and then say what? Activate your data source. Okay, then what I'll do? I'll go to LBWE, it's 02, right? Purchasing, I'll go here, item, I'll inactivate the data source. Then I'll go to what? Maintain. If I don't add any extra field, my ready-made info source is fine. Let me just add one. Say you have all these fields. Did I with item or header? Item only, right? So all the fields what you see blue are the ready-made ones. Let's say, did we had Bookers? Let's say Bookers is not there. I want this Bookers. Let's say I added one extra field here. Okay. Let's add one more so that you will understand what I'm doing. Purchase customer guiding just. Let's say purchase requisition number also I want it. Okay. So now do you really want to confirm this? Okay. See, there's some data. 02. Let me clean this. In the real time, you will not get this problems if you are the first one doing it. Yeah. LO company code and what purchasing document. What the something purchase requisition. PW. Okay. Just get these numbers 9, 10, 11, 12, right? There are other clients which has got data in it, but I don't have user IDs for that client. All these are there should be SAP star or DDIC. SAP స్టార్ ఏదో ఉంటుంది. 1 second. There are multiple active clients. Actually, it is saying it has got data in other clients. For example, if I say at least at least one client, because R3 will have multiple active clients. So one second. I think we have only option is we have to log into that client. But we don't have logins for other clients. ఏదో ఒకటనే ఉంటుంది యూజర్ ఎవడో. DDIC name. DDIC. Username is DDIC. Password status invalid. Admin 567. ఈ DDIC యూజర్ పాస్వర్డ్ కావాలి. DDIC యూజర్ okay, at least let's check another data source or something. A data source and out tables. So I inactivate this data source. Maintain something. So some field I added. This is okay. This data sources. Purchasing ki వేరే client ఎక్కడో data ఉంది. So there's some other client which has got data in it. It's a problem. And click on this, generate your data source. The point ఏంటంటే just same. For field what you've done, it will deselect this. And then that's okay, update mode is fine. Data source active now. So what we do is we go back to BW side, yeah, and then when you replicate, don't replicate it as RSDS, okay? Just say replicate. We go to RSA1. I think it's already taken it as. What is the source system here? T90. See, it is it is taken as 7, or someone already replicated as 7, so I want to reconvert it first. Okay. So if you want to formulate the flow with the 3.x info source, what you do is you have to go in first. If you are replicating it first time, please make sure you replicate it as 3.x only. It's already migrated, so I'm saying restore it to 3.x. I'm saying, yeah, yes. If I go to RSS, so now you see a small square. Suppose now if you say replicate once again, so what I'm suggesting is when you're replicating in, I don't know how many of you seen that when you replicate you should get a screen, whether it is ISFS or RSDS. Okay. If it is ISFS, it is 3.x flow. RSDS is 7 flow. So replicate as 3.x only first. Okay. So when you replicate as 3.x, then what you do when you go to RS7, you find a small square indicating that what is this 3.x flow. Now you can right click and say create transfer rules and go with the content. Means system will propose the business content info source. So with all the suitable info objects for this, or yeah, go in. Is not this for this. There is nothing. Say go with proposal. Let it create. It will start suggesting you all the info objects for this. It says now I'm trying to do 0 PURD order. It is trying to propose this info object for this field, but it says it is not available in what? You getting this? 0 PO order is not available in active. That's an error. Okay. So what you do? You basically open. So now it does give you all the info objects what is needed. Just collect all those names from business content, install these info objects. After installing, again do the same thing. Right click, say propose, and then have the info source created. Like this, we can have the info objects mapped out. What I'm saying is replicate your data source as normal 3.x and right click and say assign create transfer rules. Okay. Then you will map the info source, automatic business content info source or proposal. Then it will propose all the business content info objects suitable for all the fields. Okay. If it is not, when it is proposing, if it is not available, it will ask you to install. You have to collect the objects and install them. Then the info source is formed. Based on the info source, create a cube. Now all your flow will be in 3.x flow. Then migrate the complete flow to what? 7. That's the point. Getting it will take a lot of time to install this, but I will do it for just someone is again. Yeah, because yesterday I had one interview. He was stressing on, did you work on LO extraction? I said, yeah. He was a very senior person. Then he started asking, give me step by step what you've done. Then I said, generate LO data source, replicate and then connect your target. And then wait. He stopped me at the formulating the data flow. Then he started asking, okay, don't go fast, okay, be slow. You replicated. Did you first step? Okay. Did you replicate it as 3.x or 7 years? First I said 7. Then okay. Then how did you connect that to the cube? Then I said connect it to the cube all this. But are you not using how did you get the info objects what is required for it? since I need to support the one with RSDS, my previous answer, I said we manually could find out all the info objects only. But if you look at item data source, it will be having 250, 300 fields. Does it make sense? Then, so then what could be the best way, he asked me. Then he said, we came out with saying, we'll replicate it as ISFS, nothing but what? 3.x data source. Then when I right click, it will propose the info source from the business content. With what are the name we have in the data source, we'll have it with info source also. Then we'll use the same info source, use transfer rules. Then again, same based on this info source info objects, I'll have my cube or DSO created. Then connect with update rules. Now complete flow can be migrated. From 3.x, I can right click on the target and say migrate data flow. And then it migrates complete data flow like that. So that's what you are. Did you work with migration? So then we can say we work with migration of the data flow and with using 3.x, because for inventory all this, I was mainly focusing on inventory in the discussion. So for inventory, we have to use info sources. What is of 3? Because it has got a lot of routines in it. So when you want to use the same info source routines, then you'll have to implement the flow with what? 3.x, then migrate to 7. Did you understand what I'm saying? Then video connect. I'll show you this. So because even if you answer a lot of questions, but if you fail in this, so I thought I should stress this point. And let me do this. Because if you miss that answer, then you might answer anything but doesn't make any point. Now, 1 second. It's all done. So now I've got this data source now. So I'm reverting it back to what? 3.x. Let's say now replicate data source. When I go to RSA1, you'll find it as small square indicating it's 3.x. Now when you say assign what? Create transfer rules, you'll say application proposal. Okay. Yes. It is just throwing me error with two info objects not available. I can just do that. I'll go to BI content, install those two info objects. One is what? This is the one. Collection mode was automatic. Install this out like this. What are the info objects missing? You will just install them out. Yeah. Next is another info object, net value. So the objects what is required is installed. Now I'll go back, select the data source, right click, create transfer rules, proposal. Now what is required is installed, right? Now still there's some ones not proposed. Just click on this. So now it will propose info objects automatically, and if you go to info source, that is found with all the suitable info objects required here. If not, we can still manipulate, activate. Okay, now if you see, I have this data source, transfer rules, and what? Info source. This is all of 3.x only, small square. Now by using this info objects, I'll create some provider. So create cube, z test flow, demo flow. So I use this info source. Take this into case. Now cube is ready. Then you will formulate the what? It's 3.x flow, right? You will create what? You create update rules with info source. You will see the characteristic mappings here, time characteristic mapping here, and say activate. Now the complete flow is formed on 3.x flow. Yeah. You can create info package also. Okay, now what you do then is, then you migrate the complete flow to 7. Now right click on this cube and say right click, say what? Migrate data. You can use this, or you can use a T code RS migrate, anything is okay. Migrate flow, just say some Z project 101 something. Say create. What all objects you want to migrate, just select them. Okay, save and say what? Migrate. And you want this all nothing to be happen. What during migration, what all things to be happen? Set clear. copy transformations from transformation operator. There is a problem. Unable to create transformations for operators. Where is this? So it's saying unable to create. We can do it manually also. You can just right click on this update rules, add function, say what? Create transformations. Create copy of it. So I'll just create new info source. I'll just put Z to it. Program terminated. Okay, there's some issues, but do you understand this? How are we getting in? And then again I'll say I can activate this manually. Then again I'll migrate my transfer rules to what? Existing one which is already created. I'll be linking to it. That's okay. That's a bug. I can activate manually. ECC. I have now info source with transfer rules also. Activate them. Now data source only 3.x. Now right click on the data. Last should be the data migrate. Say with export. So if you do with export, you'll have possibility of recovering it back again. Okay, now we don't need this. If you want, you can delete them out. They keep it like this. DDP now create it. Now look at this. I have the cube, transformations, info source, transformations, data source, and what? DDP and info. Don't worry on this part of it. Like this, you will migrate it to 7 flow. See, normally you should be able to do migrate complete data. Right click and say migrate data flow. But there are some issues. I was just activating it manually. So in the real time, you can just right click, say complete migrate data flow completely. Then you start loading in. So why am I doing this? Okay, because this for a ready-made extractors, there is some ready-made info sources delivered by SAP as part of business content, which is of 3.x. And from this info source to cube, there are some ready-made routines also written already. If you collect this, actually, especially if you see inventory, you'll have 3 data sources for it, 3 info sources for it, and from this info source to cube, you'll have a lot of update rules written, lot of routines in it. If I want, instead of rewriting those routines, I would like leverage those routines what is given by business content. So what I'll do, I'll replicate all these 3 data sources as what? ISFS only. Connect to the same 3.x info sources, use the same transfer rules, update rules, and the same old cube. Then migrate the complete flow, then use with 7 flow. When you're replicating, did you replicate it as RSDS or ISFS? That was the question. I said I wanted to leverage the 3.x info sources, so I replicated it as ISFS, utilize the existing 3.x flow, you update rules and transfer rules, then migrated the flow to what? 7, then utilized with the DD. and info pads. Clear? Okay.
సో ప్రతిసారి మనం చెక్ చేసుకోవాలి కదా.
Preferably, most of them will have 3.x rules. ఏం చెక్ చేసుకోవాలి?
అంటే ట్రాన్స్ఫర్ రూల్స్ అడిగి మనం
If you because instead of me writing all the routines manual again, if I go with show and flow, I can leverage the if it is inventory queue, update rules. See, there are so many routines. చాలా ఉంటాయి routines. If you want to leverage those routines, it is better to go with what? With the flow there. Suppose if you have here now you have ready-made transformations available, then you can go with 7 flow. అర్థమైందన్నా? Let me just install all this and keep it ready. Say install all below. Yeah.
So what is it like, let's say you want to use your, you want to get all the info of this corresponding period so it is ready. You say like you look up online what is data flow, few policies on top of it, then try to drop that from the
See, two ways. See, if you're really working on the system, this is how you do. But generally, if you really want to do documentation and before you get on the system, you really want to map it, we can copy it from this also. And one more thing I'll tell you. What you can do is, if you go to your help.sap.com, yeah, yours is analytics, business intelligence, this is all BW1. One second. When you basically go to technology, you have something, what is business warehouse? Okay. Depending on what support pack you're working on, let's say you go with 7.3 something. When you get into this, you'll have something for each of this you're getting, there's something what is BI content. If you get into BI content, creating and delivering BI content, when you expand this menu, you'll have say creating for BI content delivered by SAP. There are lots of changes. Creating and delivering business content. You basically have to get, if you know the, you want to search, but there is some where installing BI content data sources.
These are only like functional area and data source name and BI content and Google. I think we should do like. I think
No, actually there is a link which gets you complete list.
Right.
Application area wise you can go. So I'm just checking for it. Creating SAP data source in SAP system. Data acquisition. Let me get into 7.0. Then we'll have something called BI content. One second, there's one link which can help you. BI content అని ఉండాలి. That is NetWeaver. Okay, business warehouse. It's the business warehouse BI content. Here it is. Now business warehouse, click on BI content. Now you want to see content of anything you want. Then you click on this business warehouse. Business intelligence overview platform. Content. BI content and BI content extensions. Yeah, BI content expansion. Now when you get into this BI content, you want to go with for, let's say, SAP ERP bus. Again, now it will be grouping, gives you financial, logistics or HR bus. So you want to get into what? Logistics. Now within the logistics, you want to go with what? Sales and distribution, procurement, or what? Let's say what? Enterprise sales and distribution. Now within this, you want to see it for what? Data sources. Extraction sales document header data. If you just click on this, it will give you information about this data source. 2 LS11 VHDR, and you get to see all the fields, right? Now you can read about data source also, but if you want to know which infobix are there, then I'll go to what? Info sources. Again, info source I should see billing, sales and shipping, sales order. Click on, here it is. Here I have got sales order header date 2.0b. What is his name? So I have info source with the same name, 2LS11 VHDR. Here it tells me info object name and corresponding field in what? So which info object here and which field here. So for VPLN field in the extract structure, 0 doc number. AURT document type, document reason. So if you want to really do the documentation, you can also get the mapping of for which field, which info object here is. Just getting you this link. So with here also, now you can tell me what is it. This is what I wanted. So there is one link like this which can get you information about everything. So if you really know manually, you can just copy all this, install those Infobics one by one. That is fine. For documentation, it is fine to copy it from here. But if I have to do this, I'll have to go to RSOR, collect Infobit one by one, install them, then create a cube. But let's say it needed some transformations. Then I'll have to write my own logic. But why don't I leverage the ready-made business content routines or something? Then what I'll do, I'll install those in update rules, info source, transfer rules, everything as 3.x, data source, everything. Then I'll migrate the flow to 7. So if this, because he was stressing me on that point, so I thought I should tell you this. Especially for inventory, you would build the flow with 3.x, then migrate it first, because I would like leverage those update rules what is been given. And that also depends on which version you are saying you are working on. Suppose if you say trying to work on 7.4, then you might have the ready-made business content given in inventory for transformations. So based on that, you should answer that. Clear, boss? Okay. So it's all about finding out data source what you want, replicate, then you formulate the flow, start doing reporting. If you look at the senior architects, what they do is they understand the reporting requirements. They don't spend much time. They understand the report requirements. They'll just open this T code like straight away. They'll go to RSFI. And the experience, they'll have so much of experience like this. They understand the requirements. Then they come to you. They say, okay, R3, okay, SD, right? Now you take this data source. You take this data source. Take this data source. Okay. You'll keep writing those names. So then they'll just say, okay, in MM, get into this item data source of purchasing and get this schedule lines of purchasing. And for inventory, get this BX, BF, okay, and EM. They'll just list your data source and they'll go. That's all. Because based on the requirements, once you have identified the data source, game is done. You just have to install those data sources, replicate, formulate your flow, have your cubes, then the multiplier is done. Then again he comes back. Then he drags those Infobics, creates reports, and he goes back. That's your project. Once we are able, let's say based on the requirement, once you are able to identify which data source you need to use, then game is done. Yes or no? That is very, very important. And one more important, you should spend some time on let's say, you should start planning up. Say, for example, I have LBWE. Let's say I have got purchasing data source. Okay. Two things if you know, boss. Ultimately, which data source brings data from which tables, the game is done. Let's say, for example, header. How do I know that? Okay. Click on this maintenance. Now, if you go here, you will drop down and you will find structures EKKO, EKPA and this. If you remove that word MC, then the rest of the word is your table source. So you should even get prepared so well, because in the profile when you put purchasing, you should know about data source name, you should know about the table names also. So now when I open, so I know those tables. Now I don't know what does it has got in the table. Now I will open the table. EKKO, okay? Then go in. We know VBAP, right? So you got to expand on that now. I've got purchasing document header data. So it is got, if you just try to read, it is giving me what? Purchase document number. So is it like purchasing header table? Yeah? Now I'll have like say EKPO. Okay. Again I don't know. Again I'll go to item level data source, main 10. If you go to this, again, EKKO and what is this here? EKPO is your item level. Like this, you will have to catch hold of, if you profile, you don't have to say you worked on every data source. You can choose your applications. Let's plan up saying I worked on inventory, purchasing, sales, billing, delivery. But be prepared completely on with the names of the data source, what you worked on, what are the corresponding tables in the back end, the data was there. Perfect ga undali. Even if you say I worked on only one data source, also possible. Because I was answering there's one interview where I wanted to say I worked only on purchasing item. I need to prove that I worked only on purchasing item data source only. Okay. Then he said we worked on only one. Yes. Then why was that we worked only one? Then I said we had 6 plants and each plant was configured in different ECC system, and when I had to extract the purchasing item data source from 6 ECC systems, and that was my project. Why did you work only on one? Yes, I said I worked on only one data source, but my customer had one ECC for each plant. He had 6 plants, so I need to extract purchasing item data source from 6 ECC systems. That was my project. 6 data source, same data source but different ECC, consolidated into 6 DSOs, from 6 DSOs into another DSO, from there to Q. Even the bus. Yeah. Then he was asking me, when I answered him like this, then how do you differentiate the record whether which is from which system was? Then I said I had plant number. I had an information called plant, which was telling me, because from each ECC is for dedicated plant, right? I had information called 0 plant, which is differentiating me the value. So this kind of discussions are happening in the interview. So when you say you know about LO extraction, the discussion can get on to what? Update modes, and they might start asking you which data source did you work on. They expect some names. So no resume, whatever you plan to project in your profile, be prepared with those names. So if you say purchasing some 2-3 data source, you learn many things. Like if you learn 10, you'll forget 5 obviously. So learn 10, you'll forget 5, then give him 5. Okay. So you should plan. So which function can you understand more? Purchasing you can understand, inventory you can understand, say sales, billing, delivery. Yeah? Then you say pick some data source names from purchasing, pick from inventory, pick from sales orders, pick from billing, shipping and billing. I have the data source names. So data source names, name of the tables from where it is picking data from, and some functional aspect like how does purchasing work, how does sales order work, how does delivery work, how does billing work. So do you know what is the T code for creating sales order? VA01, VA0. Same way you will have billing also. If you go to Google, what is the T code for creating deliveries in ECC? What is the T code for creating billing? What is the T code for creating metal movement? What is the T code creating for creating purchasing? Get more grip on those functional areas. And there are also questions in that is where they're asking, can you list me tables? What do you know? Can you list me some table names in ECC? What do you know? Until he says stop, you should start giving him the names. Anta grip undal. So that is where you're projecting your experience. Till now you learnt about, it's all knowledge. Okay. From here you should start enhancing. Say when you project 4 years, 5 years experience, this is what counts out. Giving more frequently, giving out the table names, talking on the table names, talking on the name of the data sources, getting into field, spend more time. Say for example, now you want to project purchasing. Now click on this and try to see what fields do we have. Okay, BE dat, what is this? Document date. If you don't understand, just type the same information in Google. It tells you what is document date, what is there's some fields, what is here? EBL and purchasing document. Suppose your time is bad and he asks you a question, okay, what with item data source, right? Can you list me some fields in it? There are some people who ask you questions like that also. But I don't know anything, I've never seen this. I can straight away say, every document, logically if you think every document should have the document number, item number, date, created date, changed date, document type, document category. There will be most of them common. If you just get into that, you will be able to answer. What is the value of the order? Number of items in that order. That is where you go to project your real time. So you don't need much of data. So just plan up 2 things. So if you want your job 100%, inventory you have to plan compulsory. Plan up inventory management and some other thing. Purchasing is more relevant with inventory, and purchasing goes with MM. Okay, plan with inventory, plan with purchasing, and some part in sales, delivery, billing. Either plan chesi oka product inventory, purchasing, oka product sales. Done. And if you are prepared with the field names, data source name, table names, we are there. 100% job. And then if you are able to answer with function model extractor, variable enhancements, variable customer exit and LO extraction with this more functional part, 100%. And ODS and Q multi-provider.